All right, knock yourselves out. Do you have the agenda in front of you? Or do you
I
does
do. I have the agenda in front of me.
because does anyone need me to post the agenda to the chat or anything?
No, I got
Oh,
it.
that would be helpful if you could. That'd be great.
Okay,
Thank you. That'd be a big help.
sure. Just a
And I'm
moment.
taking notes, Rand, for the
Oh,
record.
thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. And our first move is to approve today's agenda. So would anyone like to just let us know if they approve the agenda?
So approved.
Tom?
Sure.
Me
Sure.
too. Okay, 3 members approve of the agenda. Conflict of interest. Does anyone have a conflict of interest with today's activities?
I do not have a conflict of interest.
Nope.
Nope, me neither. Okay, and value statements update. So Tom, you provided some updated slides that include things from the last, from the comments we got at our 26th meeting.
Yeah.
And that's very helpful. Thank you very much for putting that together. And the first one is the community character values. And it seemed the dominant concern was short-term rentals and commercial activity. There was like that was the only thing in that part that captured people's attention and thought they wanted to say something in particular. So I'm a little confused as to what we would say in specifically about that issue. It's a county decision, not really ours. So you had suggested, Tom, I think you're quoting the Fox News, what they call fair and balanced
Oh, how embarrassing.
approach, which is very ambiguous, apparently. So along those lines, I think we could come up with something that indicates, well, either of two things based on these, if the comments ruled, it would be that we support the county's approach to short-term rentals, but I don't think that that's necessarily, I'm not sure what's appropriate in this context for short-term rentals and being that specific about it. I think we've said a lot in the house about housing and how everybody want a place where people can live the life they want to live. That's also quite ambiguous, I guess. So maybe there is a precedent for taking a stand, but I did get an email from Sarah, who I would tend to consult on this issue. And she is in her very important meeting with the feds about the flooding and the whole floodplain thing for Tillamook County. So she's with attorneys and meeting with the feds right now. And if she gets out of her meeting, maybe we'll just come back around to this particular one, because I got the feeling we weren't really going to talk about short-term rentals specifically. I
Right.
think we want to make positive statements about what we do want, and they have their rules and regulations already in place. So
Right.
I would tend to veer away from making any mention of short-term rentals and just zero in on the positive things we want for our community in the values.
Well,
What do
the
you?
problem is that some people would see the elimination of STRs as a positive.
It's moot.
It's, well,
Well,
no, well, it's all moot if these are not laws, these are not ordinances. So this is what we want. No.
Yeah, I guess the concern I have about that is our credibility with the document, because the community has just gone through and the county has just gone through and the state has just gone through a huge short-term rental conversation. And we ended up with ordinances. And so to me, it's kind of for a visionary document to say, oh yeah, we did all that, but we're still not happy. I don't think, certainly we can say that. We can say all kinds of things because it's not tied to
Not binding legislation.
Yeah,
not
well,
binding.
we're at a moment in time. What is it going to look like in 10 years, 20 years?
Right. So you want something that makes sense through time as to what your perspective is on how this issue is managed in the community. And Guy may have a point of view of clarification. Guy, my thought, so we're going through the values, and Tom has created a document that includes the latest comments from the meeting on the 26th that I sent out, culled from the questionnaires. And
Do you
almost
want me
all of them
to share that? Do you want me to share that? Would
I
that
have
be
it.
useful?
I have it.
Okay.
Okay.
And I have mine open, so so our point was that we don't think we need to make a specific statement regarding short-term rentals. And my generalization is that I think that we want to state positive things about what we want in our community regarding housing and availability to people who come to visit, to have a place to stay, and all those things. And so I guess as a generalization, in the housing thing, you could say, and we have appropriate settings for visitors to stay in the community. I mean, my
We
pitch
sort
way
of
back,
said, yeah, we sort of said that already.
yeah, that's
Right.
So I'm not
Exactly.
sure what needs to be said additionally.
Right.
I guess there's an issue too, which I don't know if this came up in the short-term rental conversation that the county had and the community had and the state had, but for Nesco Inn to say they're opposed to short-term rentals is contradictory to wanting diverse housing options. It doesn't make sense to say both at the same time. There's a level of affordability with short-term rentals that is not attainable it's very different from purchasing a property. And it's always been the tradition on the Oregon coast that people can come over for a week and have a summer vacation. And so to me, we can't say we want diversity in housing and say we're opposed to short-term rentals, and it just flies in the face of what we're trying to do.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So we can wait, and Sarah may be able to join the call, Guy, later. She's talking to the feds about the flooding issue, so, and with an attorney in the Fed. So if she makes it to the meeting, we could ask her, but you're a planning commission member, and have you seen anything from any of the other community plans that actually addresses this head on, or is it usually a kind of a statement that floats over the top of everything and then you apply that to whatever the particular case is?
Well, we haven't had a community plan come forward since the short-term rental committee
Oh,
in the
okay,
county established the caps.
right. Well, so, I mean, a diverse housing supply that accommodates a variety of household needs and life stages of its residents, limited
And
commercial
and
activity
visitors.
guidelines that preserve unique character, distinct neighborhoods. I don't know.
I think residents and visitors. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think it's got to be inclusive. We talk so much about inclusivity, we can't exclude a group of people.
Okay,
Right.
so
And
maybe my
visitor-
observation that it wasn't covered is not correct. Yeah, I'm convinced that yeah, it's covered.
I would
we
say,
don't need to-
I would add the term, just to reinforce what Lynne's saying on that line of the diverse housing supply, stages of its residents and visitors.
Right, stages of its residents and visitors. Well,
Okay,
let's add that, Tom.
all right. Okay,
Okay, and that's really the only one we got in that area. So I think we could move to the next one unless you have other comments.
nope, I think, what I'm gonna do is just make notations that's already covered. I'll try to answer those based on what we decide here.
Okay.
Okay.
So the second one, family focused and education minded values. Guy, you had a suggestion. Why don't you explain that? I think that was a really good suggestion. Kind of about lifelong learning and a community that supports that kind of activity.
Well, there's this concept, and I'm sure Lynne probably has experienced it in some of the organizations she was in, of being as an organization that you are a learning community. And essentially is that you are constantly learning, improving. You come together with kind of open minds. You bring in experts when needed, and everyone's committed to kind of a community of learners that we never stop. And so I sent Rand, let me just bring it up, an email when I read Tom's comments today about, what is we value education. And I was thinking, in what way, when we talk about education for a community like Neskowin, which consists of mostly, or not mostly, I shouldn't say that, but a significant number of retirees and that kind of thing. So, so I had this idea, now I gotta find it. All right, so I sent Rand this email that reads, I'm wondering, looking at Tom's comment, that the education value needs work. I thought of a concept we used in various organizations that may fit how we think of Neskowin community and what we value. I envision Neskowin as a learning community committed to continuous learning for the benefit of where we live. One definition such as, and I just dug this out of the internet, a learning community is or can be a group of shared goals, motivations, and values, place to share ideas, problems, and questions, a space for discussion, a collaborative environment, a source of inspiration, a network of fellow residents and experts. So, and then I added, I think of what we did with the coastal hazard work, where we came together as a community with experts up and down the coast to devise an adaptation plan for Neskowin. And I thought that was, one example of us being willing and open to learn for the benefit of our community.
So if I got every word of that down.
Whoa, geez.
Actually, I lied.
Oh,
Court
can send it to
reporter
you.
on his spare time.
If you could capture that and send that off in an email or put it in the chat.
Well, maybe we can just talk about the concept in a minute, or for a minute.
Okay,
And
because that does sound good to me.
Yeah,
okay,
it sounds appropriate for my experience of this community over the years. Big questions come up and people come together and try and sort out what they understand about it and how they envision acting on it and act on it. It's been pretty consistent in my 45 years here.
well, let me write. I don't know what we're allowed to do here, but I can kind of, I just threw this together in an email for Rand. I can, put it together in something that could actually be stated within the values.
If you'd like to do that,
And-
that's fine. Or you want to send me the raw stuff, I can do that. Either way.
Okay, I'll
I
send you
think
the
it's-
roster.
Guy, I think it's important to say learning communities.
Yeah,
Because the concept is that, so not that we're a, I don't know the proper word in today's world, but that not that there's just one community of learning, but there may be a group of people who decide we're all going to learn how to, backpack. And we all get together and we all do that, but that no one is forced in learning community. It's a communities concept because no one's forced to be part of a certain exercise in learning. And so as long as we make it plural, I'm good, so that we don't get another meaning or suspicion that, there's them that are in and them that are out. I just don't want any of that language in our plan, because I think we want to be accessible, but not mandatory.
So my caution there is the learning community is when we come together to do something of benefit for the community at large, like the coastal hazard group that came together, like putting in the egress road, like, working on our beach access, coming together, and learning what ways and things we can do, and working with experts, how to save our beach. I guess to me, yes, I agree that there are groups, that like to go horseback riding up the Hawk Creek, watershed. There are people who do all kinds of things. But what I see as a value for the community is when we come together to benefit Neskowin as a community. Like, not to put backpacking down, I love backpack, but backpacking is not, it's an individual benefit, not a community benefit. I mean, it may be available for people in the community, but I don't see that as the same. And I guess when I work in different organizations, when we thought of it as, how does whatever activity it is in terms of the learning community, how is it benefiting our broader organization, not just us individually?
Yes. And so maybe that's where it comes in, is that it is not maybe I'm making the wrong thing plural. So in learning communities, you form to do something and then you go on to something different. It's not like there's a learning community and you have
Not
to
a club.
Yeah. So it's that you have a series of processes that use that concept to drive to a conclusion benefiting the community. I think that's a really important caveat, that it benefits the community. Because if someone raises their hand and says, okay, well, this is a learning community, but I don't think what you're doing benefits the community.
That's fine.
Then
That's
you have
part of the process. That's
Right.
part of what a learning community does, is you.
Right. But I think that's the critical language, is to benefit the community.
Okay.
So I sent Tom and Lynn and Laurie, I'm not sure I sent it to Mark, what Guy sent me earlier. If he hadn't done it already, I did it.
I did it already, but that's all right.
Yeah, okay, I've got, I think the benefits to community is the part that's not in that. I'll integrate that somehow and,
Okay.
and make it wonderful. Yes.
Thank you.
But I think that's an excellent, that's
Addition.
very specific. And,
Yeah.
I think it's more targeted as a community plan. When we talk about education as a value, it's
Yeah.
so broad and could mean anything. And so that's why it just hit me this morning when I looked at your comment, Tom, the comments that you captured and your concern on. That's when it came to me.
okay.
Good.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, good addition. Okay, in that category, I don't think we had any other, unless I'm wrong, let's see.
No, it was the same thing, day's work 3 times.
Okay. And so environmental stewardship thing was interesting, that the comments there were 3 disagreements and 3 unsures with no comments attached. So they just didn't believe environmental stewardship values were important for some reason. I didn't quite grasp that, but then other people said it needed work. Informing tourists that this is and that's an action that's being suggested, that we educate others about this, visitors about it. Limit. Some of these things are not functional. Motorized vehicles are already prohibited on the beach. Bears are a problem. 3 people disagreed but offered no comment, and 3 people were unsure but offered no comment. So there's not a lot besides including informing tourists in some way, which is an interesting comment that we might be able to. I'm not sure how we approach that unless there were materials that the community published to share with the community or something, or signage, or we do have our funny little signs that we put up when the onslaught of tens of thousands of people were coming to Neskowin about, please consider these. I was hearing a lot from different people that they thought people weren't respecting things, and I went and talked to Tom Eaton, and he said, how about a sign? So we came up with a sign, and I got 3 signs made, and I put them up at the public entry and a couple of the beach access points about just, because what we understood was a lot of people who were coming, escaping the city, had never been to the beach. They didn't really know how to go to the beach, which means they didn't know where a restroom might be or what to do with their garbage, or, any number of things that were really impacting the beach. So we just asked them in a friendly manner to respect our community and blah, blah, blah. So that's about all we have that is a direct message from our community to visitors as they enter our beach atmosphere. Are there other things you think we could do? We have.
I don't think we could put one more sign on the post of 10 signs as we enter a beach access. I mean, right now you spend 15 minutes reading the damn signs before you walk out there. And if you believed everything on that sign, you wouldn't go to the beach. It'd be a threat.
Sneaker
I'm not going to
waves
risk my life out there.
Well, there you go. So
Welcome to the beach, you may die. Yeah.
right. Walking across the street, you may die. So
whose song is that? Whose famous song is that? Signs everywhere, signs.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's like a 70s sign.
Yeah.
Signs.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta look that up now.
Yeah,
Okay.
now I gotta figure out what that
Well,
is.
the state highway department assures me that people don't pay attention or obey signs, which is a little disheartening, given
Oh,
that that's where you understand how fast you should be going, or that there's an intersection approaching, or that pedestrians and congestion are ahead, or any of those things, which I think are very helpful. Anyway.
So I would suggest we might add a sub-bullet under practices that continue to maintain visitor information.
Okay, let's do that.
That'll answer that.
Yes, that will address that.
One other thing, moving to a little different topic under this area, we heard a lot in the listening sessions about concerns about bears coming up into the village, about cougars coming around, and I'm looking at we list as one of our practices that we minimize disturbances to wildlife, and I'm wondering, that kind of
Hazardous.
that puts the onus on us to stay out of the way of bears, right? I'm wondering if we kind of use some of the similar language you see coming out of the state and other places, is that what we do is we want to, and I'm not trying to write this statement in my head, I'm just kind of expressing a view that what we want is to to somehow either protect human and wildlife interactions. We want to make people aware of human wildlife interactions. We want to, we're going to recognize that there are going to be those interactions, and that there's kind of a responsibility on us as part, you know, in terms of how those interactions happen. And it's not a matter of, you know, minimizing disturbances, you know, in other words, staying out of the way, but there might be ways working with U.S. Fish and Wildlife or Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife to kind of make those interactions safer for both the animals and humans, although humans are animals. I don't know, just a more balanced statement than what this, how this reads as to me is, you know, we need to be staying out, you know, we value staying out of the way of our bears and cougars or whatever, but.
Well, that second sub-bullet in their practice is that could go it could be read both ways. And I would, you know, a lot of these sentences are going to become paragraphs, I think.
Right.
And I think we can capture that. One thing I have as a as a pet peeve as of this week is that the people who had the STR across the street 3 nights in a row did not secure their garbage.
Was it out everywhere?
And so a bear was there 3 days in a row.
Not learning.
Not learning. I would like to have them tied to the garbage bin.
Yeah, well, there's an idea.
I'm with you, Tom, and I assume that you have the name of who's managing that STR.
Yeah, I did do a report. Yes.
Good, because candidly, you know, the state of Oregon has managed, I think, amazingly complex animal-human, you know, conflicts across the state. They work really hard. They're very fine professionals. And as long as we have people who don't tie up the garbage, we will have bears, because we back up on a wildlife preserve. I mean, our house goes, our backyard goes right into
The marsh.
the marsh and the wildlife reserve. And so we have bears, we have deer, we have cougars, we have everything. And part of it is it's our responsibility to know how to live in that kind of place, you know. And I, you know, if I could only put up one line, it would be use your God-given common sense. I mean, what is your problem, people? Bears aren't friendly, and they're, you know, they are cute, but they're not friendly. So anyway, I just, however we want to say it, but I have tremendous respect for the people at ODFW and the work they do. And I know in our neighborhood at Nesquin, they have gone to great lengths to explain to people that if you think you're feeding the bears or the deers, you need to have your head examined, because you're not. I mean, that kind of thing, like I'm going to put out some food for the deer, you know. And also, if you think you're going to get close to a bear that's getting in your garbage, you're risking your life, because it's just stupid to do that. So, you know, that could be the other sign. Don't be stupid. But
well, unfortunately, that's fairly inclusive and non-specific.
Did you capture that word for word, Tom?
You bet. And I'll make a notation
Okay.
that Lynn said that.
yeah, oh, please don't. Please don't.
Yeah. Now, if bears would just stop getting further educated, we would be in good shape.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Well, I've never ceased to be amazed when we had the first round of bears, and the ODFW guy looks at me and he says, well, you know what their favorite food is? And I said, what? And he goes, chocolate donuts. We feed them chocolate donuts. That's how we get them in the crate to take them back up to the mountains. And I thought, well, that's a pretty sophisticated palate. If bears now think chocolate donuts are their, you know, favorite food, that's kind of amazing.
Not rabbits, huh?
Yeah. Not rabbits.
Yeah, they should be eating rabbits. Okay, I think we vetted that one reasonably well.
Okay.
So the next one is the one that's was very heavily weighted towards road repairs, safety and resilience. and there was some pushback on a number of the subjects, so I don't know. I did like the pedestrian crossing needed at the Salem Street Bridge to get people to the cafe, since that's definitely would be a good idea when people come around that corner, that to give them notice there's a crosswalk there.
Yeah.
That's a particular action rather than of value, but yeah, reading through these, it's kind of things we've heard a lot about.
Yep.
And so automobile traffic is a low priority. They said that was a pejorative statement that the person didn't agree with.
No, I don't think that's pejorative. I think it's judgmental.
Okay, okay.
It's after the
Okay.
fact as opposed to before the fact.
So there might be a way of communicating this more effectively. That was kind of something I had come up with that I'm more than willing to abandon if we have an option that is more communicative and less judgmental. But
Well, I mean, if we can say things, that is a negative statement, as to your point.
right,
We can make it a more positive statement by listing the order of precedence we think that the road should be, and we just leave automobile traffic at the bottom. That way,
uh-huh.
we're not necessarily,
Singling them out as,
singling them out as a bad thing.
okay, so let's make a note to explore, or restate it in a way that it's just a shopping list or a list of things that are, and maybe we say listed in priority,
No, you just list
make it
it.
more
and
subtle.
a little more subtle. You just list it in order. And
Okay,
don't tell them it's priority. Just let them figure it out.
okay.
And
And then-
Rand,
Yes,
just for your music relief, the song is by the 5-man electrical band, and it is called Signs. And it fits everything we've just been talking about. But
all
yeah,
right, and you've got the tune even.
No, I remember the tune. I just didn't know who did it.
yeah,
Yeah, well, that they were a one hit and gone band as far as I remember.
yeah. But they got a gold record off it, so that it was
Oh, wow.
yeah.
That's
So
that's
it's a
pretty
real
wacky.
thing.
They
Yeah.
they retired to Fiji and they're
Yeah.
happy today. Okay, and then the other one was are pedestrian friendly, is pedestrian friendly streets too vague, or is that we're gonna roll with that?
I think once we put some words around it, I think that, having the list there, I think, but, the priorities.
Okay, yeah, and
think
we've
we
had
can-
a lot of things in previous iterations that were more specific to that, and I think we could bring those out, and I think it's maybe time to get these things into further development, like paragraphs and
Okay.
things, so
And I
But-
think, Rand, one of the things that's great about pedestrian friendly, the phrase,
uh-huh,
it doesn't say skinny streets, but if you have the streets that exist in Nescoin and you want to be pedestrian friendly, you've got to minimize cars. I mean, all those thoughts are
Right.
connected. And that was
Right.
why skinny streets was used 10 or 20 years ago was, if you got too many cars or too many, more importantly, cars going too fast, they could not be pedestrian friendly streets. They're 1-lane streets.
yeah.
So
I'm surprised no one really brought up speed bumps.
They talked about, I was mentioned briefly a couple of times, kind of off to the side, not formally.
Yeah.
And
You
I
know,
think,
and I know we can overdo the signs. We just got laughing about this, but I my brain goes to you know, when you're down in almost to the Mexican border, you get and you see these signs visually making you aware that there might be like people dragging children running across the highway
Yeah,
as they're escaping, you know,
Mm.
whatever. And I'm just, it made me think that, you know, I'm a firm believer in visual, more graphic signs than wordy signs. And, you know, so, you know, and that one, and as you go down to Mexico, you see the actual, it's a drawing of people running across the road, dragging their kids. Maybe we need to, as you go over the Salem Bridge, Salem Street Bridge, there's especially that, and maybe in South Beach as well, just signs showing people walking in the road, you know, like a visual thing. I mean, it's just, I'm just
with kids. I like it.
with kids now. Anyway, it goes along with things like the crosswalk at the Salem Street Bridge for people coming off the beach walk there, you know, the path and going
Right.
to the cafe. So those are good little things that could come up. We can think about, not obviously in the plan, but as a result of listening to people.
I think
Well,
it-
Go ahead.
I don't know if you all remember, maybe I'm the oldest person here, but I don't know if y'all
Nope.
remember Ken Curry in Nescoin. Have you heard the name Ken Curry? Curry?
No.
Oh.
He had a little cottage up the street from the golf course, and his wife, Pogie, and they were delightful people. But he was like the sheriff of Nescoin. And so when people would start driving too fast or ignoring kids or ignoring, in those days, there were horses on the road sometimes,
Yeah.
Ken would just go talk to him. and it wasn't kind of a combative, confrontive. He had a lovely demeanor. But once Ken Curry talked to you about your behavior at Nescoin, you were pretty much on it, because he was a revered person in the community and he had a soft touch, but he was pretty darn clear that this wasn't going to be like Seaside or places, nothing wrong with Seaside, but a lot of cars are in Seaside. So I think we're just honoring the tradition of our forebears who worked very hard to make Nescoin the kind of place where you could amble along and you didn't have to exactly pay attention about traffic.
Yeah, right.
Well, the other thing about speed bumps, I've always heard it was the fire chief who said this really slows us down when we're going to emergencies.
Mhm.
It seems like you could have a softer speed lump rather than a speed bump, which they have in Mexico. And all of these, I mean, we were in so many villages where they had speed, you know, just a rise and a fall. And so you
Yeah.
can't go fast or it's going to take your transmission out or something, but it wasn't too bad to drive over. And it seems like most fire vehicles aren't going 50 anyway. They're going 15 to 25 through the village at the most.
Yeah.
So it might be worth talking to the fire chief again to see what if they have a threshold of heights or something that would work.
But Rand, with all due respect, the first thing we should be looking at is people who are handicapped trying to get through Nescoin right now with no speed bumps and potholes that are inexcusable. So if we've got the cement to make speed bumps, we ought to be starting by filling up the holes so that people can take their wheelchairs down the street without. There's a couple of turns in Nescoin right now that if you were in a wheelchair, you couldn't get around it. And so to me, I think if we do speed bumps or we propose that, I think we have to do it in the context of after you get the roads to above subpar status, because the county won't maintain those roads, and they don't, and they should. And all
That's
this
why
talk about all these people we're trying to help, but swear to gosh, if you're handicapped, this is getting to be a really rough road out there.
Well, I don't think the speed bumps are going to go in the community plan. The speed bumps are kind of an action, but the midnight pavers will be out there Wednesday and Thursday of this week to fill those potholes. And they are working with the county now to get their supplies and things, so.
Do we know where we can send them a check?
Yeah, it's
NCA, isn't it?
Ken King and, what's the other guy's name? Oh, the guy who had the paving service in Salem for years, Morris, Morris. Mike Morris, I think.
We don't need to do it now, but if you could just email me, because I'd love to support that effort, particularly if the county's collaborating.
Yeah, okay. I thought I could just give it to you, but I'm not finding.
No
We should,
hurry.
we should put it in the minutes so that we can all see it.
Yep.
Okay,
What are we
Thank you.
doing with, like some of these suggestions? The crosswalk, other things that we're talking about, the signage things. Are we kind of putting those in the infamous parking lot or whatever to be looked at later? I mean, not necessarily as part of the community plan, but as community actions that have been recommended or something. I don't know, but
well, it is a CAC kind of a
Yeah.
thing, because safety and public welfare is part
Yeah.
of the domain of the CAC, and
so we could send them coming out of this committee, a separate thing is, I mean, I just thought, again,
here are some actions that we believe were expressed as
Yeah.
a need in the community and seem to fit the common sense category.
because I also would put on that list the formation of a road association, not a road association, a road district. The South Beach has a road association, and for the most part, it works. Not all
Pretty much
yeah,
works.
but
Well,
what are
Guy,
the other?
I've been thinking this should be almost, it should be a neighborhood by neighborhood thing, so that groups of people can get together and say, this is our biggest concern, are these 8 streets. 4 of them are gravel and 4 of them are paved, and we can come up with a budget to maintain those, and if we all chip in, it costs $100 a year, something like that, because to do all of Nescoin or the village and the hills and all these different places, I mean, I'm sure South Beach has somebody who's a treasurer and
Oh yeah, they've got an organization.
yeah.
We work
So,
with them, but I'm just saying for the village, I wouldn't worry about Hills and Escalon. They have their own HOA. They do it just like we have here. Our HOA pays for road repairs and stuff,
So
right,
does
for the
ours.
gate repairs. So I think,
Yes.
and probably Lynn has a similar
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
So it's really
So-
the village that doesn't have anything.
right, and it's kind of big, I think, for
Well, it's unequal.
getting agreement.
Yeah. Well,
For such a thing.
It still could be a recommendation that part of Nescoin to help, organize and deal with these roads. I think the advantage of a road district, I mentioned this beforehand, that I think if you have your own road district, you can set your own rules.
That's right.
And so that would be an advantage, but I think at least should be explored by the CAC. But another thing is that for their, referring to them.
Yeah, no, I think it would be a good idea, and it does give control back over to people. They pay, but they get a result, as opposed to them
Right.
always saying, we pay, but we never get any results, and it's a poor county. There's not a lot of services you get from the county, period. So anyway, okay, we've kind of rolled over that one pretty completely.
All right. I think we're done.
Okay, so with Tom's updates of those, I think we'll be in good shape. And then I guess, so I think maybe the next stage on this with the vision and values is to start turning these into more closely what we see being in the plan, as these were ways to manage the information, talking to a group of people and getting some feedback. We may be to the point where we could actually make some statements and have it be a little more formal and finished in order to then turn around and use these when you're talking, because I think the next subject matter is the ordinances and how we address that subject and organize meetings to deal with the ordinances. It'd be good if in the background, that Tom, Laurie, and I could work out how to create a narrative in the vision and values. Does that sound about right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I can try and draft a first pass that you can throw rocks at. You want to do it that way?
Okay.
So this would be the perfect time, Guy, because we missed you at our last meeting. To Rand's point, I don't know where we are, because I can't remember who said it in the last meeting, but I think they're spot on, that the big deal here is the housing bill, the law, the new housing law. Do we have any read from, to me, there's 3 deliverables from Sarah we're waiting for. One is, what about the things we suggested last time that never happened? Why didn't they happen? And what does that look like in some kind of short, concise manner? 2 is, when are we going to have these consultants come talk to us about the housing bill? And 3 is, are we then ready to draft ordinances, or is there a point to drafting ordinances? Because we haven't heard back from county council on that. So those are 3 outstanding issues. And I don't know if you have any update on that, but that's critical to our work plan, which says in June, we're going to kind of get that stuff squared away. And particularly, we'd said in June, we thought we would have some kind of presentation on Senate Bill 406.
So is Mark, I saw Mark on the call. Is he still there? Yeah. So the CAC chairs and the planning commissioners have been invited to a workshop. I think it's termed a workshop on Senate Bill 406. It's middle of June. Mark, I don't have the exact thing, but it's
Okay.
in a couple of weeks.
I haven't gotten that, Guy.
You haven't?
No.
There's a planned workshop, at least at the last commission hearing, we were told that the CAC chairs were also going to be invited. I know it's a workshop for us because all the changes in the community plans are going to, it's going to be a macro effort, because of the way these are written, although I know they keep saying that we as communities are going to have some say in the language. We'll see, but so we're having a workshop. It's within a week or 2 on that. So that's where that's at. It's been very slow rollout. I don't know why. I kept pressing Sarah on 2 things. One were the recommendations that came out of 2001. And I thought that we owed it to the committee that works in the community to at least respond to what happened to those recommendations. And then secondly, what Lynne and I drafted for Nesquin R1 and Nesquin R3, just as an example, because those are going to be the most impactful changes, although there are some RR2 and recreational management zones within our area. So we were told that what Lynne and I drafted went to county council. And Sarah has told me as late as a week ago, I think at our last commission meeting, that it has not been taken up by the county council yet. I finally convinced her that my request for her review of the recommendations is separate, because she kept telling me it's out of order with our timeline. And I said, it's not out of order for our timeline. And it's separate from these recommendations. She says, well, we're not ready to take up your initial draft of R1 and R3. And I says, well, it's June, and that is our timeline. So, we're within our June to August or whatever, June, July, and August, we're supposed to be dealing with these things. So I wish you were here to help in this, but so she has promised to get these recommendations, her responses to the recommendations to us very soon. And I still don't know why the holdup with county council and looking at the things. And our request is, and their reluctance is a Measure 56 notice. You know, and I don't see how we are going to avoid a Measure 56 notice with some of the changes that may come out of this plan.
Well,
And-
and Guy, just to be clear, that discussion we had was not informed by any presentation, which I have been waiting for
Right.
since we started this process about Senate Bill 406.
Right, so that doesn't even include the 406 stuff, but we did.
Right. So part of what, so I'm just saying I wouldn't want to publish anything about the R1 and R3 till we've had our
no.
406 orientation.
Oh, absolutely not. No, I think in my mind, the purpose of submitting what we did and what Lynn and I did was say, taking some of the values that we've already talked about, and that is, for instance, in residential zones, that we would maximize residential use. And residential use does not include miniature golf courses, cemeteries, other kinds of things that are listed as either outright uses or conditional uses in some of those zones. So we were testing that and saying, we would like to remove some of these things. And the warning, as Lynn knows too, from LCDC, you can think that these things would never happen in your community, and then they do, where somebody takes advantage of what a use is. So I don't think we can go on people's good faith or goodwill for 20 years. What's going to happen, and that's going. So we haven't heard. My question to Sarah is, does county council think that any of these uses are required by state law? And I have not found any. The only one that's even possible, and Lynn and I have talked about this, is foster care homes, which I think has to be allowed in residential by state law in residential zones, but there can be a limit on the number of foster care and elder care residents. So we haven't heard, and that's where we're at. I will send you the date of our workshop. Let's see if I might even be able to. I don't even know if we got a notice. We were told at the last planning commission hearing that it was being set up. I don't even know if we got a notice.
I mean, I think if and I'm happy to talk to Sarah about this, is if we're, when we started this process at the beginning, the big new thing on the horizon was Senate Bill 406. If we're accountable for being responsive to that in the community plan, everyone on this committee should be able to at least see the Zoom presentation of what they're going to say, because otherwise you just read the bill and, I know good lawyers who've read the bill and don't quite understand what the outcome will be. So I think initially Sarah said that our committee was going to get some help from consultants on Senate Bill 406. Right. And I kind of want to, I understand that maybe we can't all be in the meeting or anything, but I would like our committee to have informed access to it, because it really matters. It is what people are going to react to. It's going to be the single biggest.
Yeah, well, they have to make it available because it's a public meeting. So
yeah.
That's.
So tomorrow the chairs are supposed to meet with Sarah at 2:00, and I can mention this to her at that meeting. I mean, I do believe.
Everybody. Yes.
I do believe that this committee should be able to see a Zoom or have some sort of presentation or something on the 406 for sure. And
so I just sent all of you the email I got from Sarah.
Okay.
And in the email, you'll see it. It says that in addition to our workshops, Thursday, June 27th, the CAC chairs are going to be invited. Housing Commission members are going to be invited. So for us, Dave Bennett. the county commissioners will be there. Anyways, you'll see the email I just sent you. It's the invitation.
Great.
Yeah,
So Mark, can you just confirm with her that we'll get to see the, that we'll have a video to review as a committee?
I'll ask her that. Yeah, I'm putting it in my notes for the conversation tomorrow.
Isn't that the day of the first presidential debate? Gonna be a big day.
Can't
Is
make
it tomorrow?
strangely entertaining.
Yeah. At
Well, I
best.
mean, it's kind of appropriate then, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah, that's
Okay.
that.
Well, that's, I told her we were getting a little discouraged by not being able to move forward without any advice on the existing recommendations from 2001 or anything else. We're kind of stuck in the mud here.
I think, Brand, if you talk with her, somehow she, I think, thinks that I'm and Lynn both are jumping ahead of our timetable.
Right.
And I think just a reminder that we're within that time frame when we were supposed to be considering these things.
Yeah, this is the month that we,
And at a minimum, to get some of those recommendations responded to. So
yeah.
I do think that, and I think that's an important conversation, but I also think Tom is doing such a great job of kind of packaging up just an incredible amount of stuff in a coherent manner. I do think that we could certainly move to a preliminary draft of the community plan with placeholders for Senate Bill 406. And obviously we can build back in on what happened at the 2001 recommendations. I mean, that's an editing process. I think part of what I think our strength is if we keep moving forward, that's kind of a little prod to Sarah that we're going to keep moving forward. And obviously she can just say, well, yeah, I'm not ready to go there yet, but I don't want to slow Tom down. If Tom wants to start pulling it together and getting us into a draft document, I'm great with that because we've done great work. We may have some ordinances to attach. If the county council says you are not to do this because we're out of money and out of time, we're not in Tom's first draft. We're not going to put any ordinances, and we're not going to put any discussion of 406. Everything else we can kind of, I think. Tell me if I'm wrong, Tom, but I think we've got good framework.
Well, I certainly feel comfortable with fleshing out the values. The others, I think I can organize to where everything that's of a particular type gets in a particular section. But as I've said before, you guys are the subject matter experts, and I can take cues from you, but I'm not going to be able to invent anything.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I'm grateful that you're here to help us reorganize and have the document be a logical progression. And that's really going to make a big difference on people grasping what it is that we're talking to them about. So that was the next thing on the agenda, an update from you about how that's going. But I think we've discussed it already in the meeting that if you can help flesh out the content of these values and visions, that's definitely a really big next step for us to see that in place and say, okay, let's reread the whole thing and how do we feel about it? We still see anything missing anywhere, and we're definitely ready for the ordinances and what might come out of those in the vision and values. But we definitely need to take the next step, and right now we're we can't do much about it. So
For the next step, I would propose that we have the values in a separate document. So because the other parts of the document are sort of in pieces.
uh-huh.
So, and it's not completely sorted yet. So if I do that, I probably would have a document which has just the values in it. That way we can zero in on it. You don't need to get the other 50 pages along with it.
Right, right. And we can sort that package and continue to mess with it and not be moving the whole document around up and down on different pages and such.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that that's a sound approach and appreciate you taking that on for making all these notes and bullet points into actual value statements and some. So one question I have is, would specific items and actions that are proposed or suggested, did those sift into an appendix out of the current document and into an appendix as for actions that would fulfill the values? Or is that a whole nother ballgame to start saying, if this is the value, what are some things that we could do that would make those values more clear to their impact on our community?
Well, I would guess that is part and parcel of the ordinances. But again, we have topics that are not covered by ordinances. So we're gonna have to.
Right.
Let me think on that.
So Lynn and Guy, in the past process, you had recommendations on ordinances, you had visions and values. Were there specific actions anywhere in the document that said, here are some things that were pointed out during the process that community agreed on as being important things to either accomplish or to note in moving forward how we can make improvements in our community? Is there
Well,
any section for that?
Well, there's visions are different than values. The values
Yes.
are sort of, standalone statements. The vision is what you want to have happen. So that's where the actions are. So
Yes.
values and
It's
visions
funny,
are
when I
different.
think of a vision, I think of a big vision of one nation under God, indivisible, blah, 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 blah. And that is a vision, but in fact, the vision is speed bumps and crosswalks.
Yeah. What do
Well,
we
I
want?
I think one of the questions here, which is important and why the county council is doing this, is, for example, who is bringing forward an ordinance, right? Is the community bringing forward an ordinance? Is the community prepared to defend that ordinance? I don't think we can say that. I mean, that would require more process. I mean, I think it's possible to say, we think ordinances could look like this implementing the community plan. But once something is an ordinance, it has a lot of, someone has to be, is the CAC going to advocate for the ordinances?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So our report for approval is a draft that goes to the CA. We're a subcommittee. It goes to the CAC. They will vote on it. And my guess is in some of these ordinances, if it's a Nesco and R1 thing of change, there might be even some changes recommended during the CAC process. But the CAC will bring it to the county.
But does the CAC have a budget for ordinances?
Well, it wouldn't need a budget. It's just going to bring the proposal to the county.
But
where the budget will come in, and what I think Sarah and the county council are concerned of is, and Sarah has told me, I mean, they have spent so much money legal fees for this STR. Number one, the STR issues that are still being appealed, and two, the appeals that are still, actually one that's still going on regarding the coastal hazard overlay zone. So I think they're risk averse right now. They don't want to be spending more money on legal fees. So it would have to be a pretty significant approval from our community, for instance, to remove cemeteries as a use in the residential zone, and so I think that's what we have to show, that when we make changes in these ordinances, that there is full community support, and that the CAC is going to have to determine.
Okay, because the I don't know if Tillamook County uses a housekeeping process for cleaning up ordinances. I mean, because much of what we were talking about was cleanup or updating as
Yeah.
opposed to groundbreaking new policy.
The biggest cost to the county in this is issuing the Measure 56 notice.
Right. And if the Measure 56 notice identifies a litigant, will the CAC carry it forward?
Well, the CAC would, it's whether the county would.
Yeah. But I mean, if someone comes into the Measure 56 process and says, I don't want this, I want my cemetery.
Right. Yeah.
Then
Who knows what the county will, the county will have to decide whether there's 99.9% of the people in Nescoin say we want cemeteries out of conditional use in a residential zone. And one person says, nope, I'm gonna bring claim a Measure 56 right. Are they willing to, it's gonna go to, I think it may even go to, I'm not sure if it goes to, that would go to LCDC first. I don't think it goes right away to LUBA. I think there might even have to be a hearing first, maybe within the county. I don't know what the process would be. It'd be interesting, but.
Because I think it's also possible the county council never puts anything in writing about how he feels about this or she feels about this.
Yeah, it's a he.
Because of the sensitivity. And I also think that their instincts about it's almost like, could you have a candid conversation? I guess you can't have a candid conversation with county council, but if county council said, look, this is the wrong time to do this stuff, why don't you wait 2 years and come in with ordinances? I'm going to be receptive to that because I don't think anyone's going to build a cemetery in Nescoin. And I also think just politically, this housing thing is such a big impact for people. It's going to sweep everything else out in front of it.
And the advantage, of course, of Senate Bill 406 is they don't have to do a Measure 56 notice.
Right. Right. I mean, that's what I bet if the county council would be really frank with us, he would say, I agree there shouldn't be cemeteries. It's a tsunami zone for Pete's sake, but also, could you just take this
Bad vision.
Yeah, could you just take this up when I don't have this behemoth thing on my plate that is the highest priority for the governor, and could you just wait? And oftentimes people don't like to say that in writing, but it is what they want to say.
Well, given what little I know about the history is they don't have a problem with waiting. They seem to be able to wait very well.
Right.
So if we want to put it in our community plan, we have to have it in the plan, or we have to buy off on having another plan in 2 years. Do we want to do that? I mean, just because we ask for it doesn't mean that the county has to act on any ask.
Right, but I don't think the ordinances go in the plan.
Oh yeah, they do.
You think they do?
Yeah,
they are requests for ordinances.
Okay.
They are not ordinances.
Okay.
Right.
Well,
exactly.
then, okay. Guy, I thought you had originally said that the ordinances grow out of the community plan.
They do, because the community goes to the county to be reviewed and approved. And part of the approval process is approving any changes in our ordinances that we have requested.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just sent you all another email that was the list of recommendations that came out of 2001 that we kind of extracted from that plan. There wasn't a specific section on recommendations. You had to kind of go through it. The recommendations were interspersed in that plan. So I pulled them out. Lynn and I think we looked at them back months ago.
Yeah.
So just to remind people what those recommendations were. And some were ordinances, some were not, it was different kinds of things. So
one of my goals is to get all those things in one place.
Yeah, they weren't in the 2001 plan.
I can absolutely concur.
Okay, so thank you, Guy, for sending that. And I don't know. Do you think we'd get, if we just said we just want to ask the county council the question? Do you think that's gonna, I mean, originally she said she was gonna give us something in writing that he said. That hasn't happened. And with lawyers,
No.
that always makes me think they're not gonna put it in writing.
Right.
And also, I can't believe they scheduled this 406 presentation at the same time as the debate.
I'll
Time of
write
night.
Sarah and remind her of that.
6 p.m. You know, it's like, what?
Yeah.
But anyway, it'll be on, if we can get it on Zoom, then that'll get our committee up to speed. So. But
Okay, and
Yeah.
thanks for sharing the recommendations. I'll go through those so I know what you're talking about specifically.
Okay.
All right, well, so I think we've made it through.
But you can see, by the way, when you go through those recommendations, there were ordinances changes to the
Yes.
R1 and R3, which
Yep.
were not done.
Yeah. No, thank you. I appreciate it. It's helpful.
Do we want to review these today, or do we want to read these and come back with questions, which
Well,
is
I think the
what
first thing we want to do, and I think Sarah, because there's some of these things that were addressed. You know, some of the construction standards on height, and actually Nescoin, as a result of this, set the standard for the whole county by the way
Right.
they measure heights of buildings. So we wait for Sarah to come back and say, yes, we did this, we didn't do that, rather than us trying to go through these things and guess.
Yep.
Well, I'll
I
just
agree.
go through them so I have some familiarity with
Right.
what exists, but yeah, I'm probably not going to comment too much on them.
Yeah.
Well, with that in place, and me with a note I'm going to write to Sarah these things rather than the conversation. She can wiggle out in a conversation that if I just state everything I want to state, and I'll run it by you guys before I send it to her, to just say, we are on schedule and we're in the process of, putting the vision and values into the statement in a more narrative form, but the ordinances are on our plate next, and we need to get your responses to the 2001 document recommendations of what happened to those and whether they went forward or not. And so that we can do our work, because we have a schedule and this is the month where we're starting it. So please work with us on this.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know what else to do.
so I want to go back to Tom's point a minute ago, because I think it's a very interesting question about what if we waited 2 years on the ordinances? And I'm not proposing we do that. But what is interesting to me, and this is my frustration with not knowing about Senate Bill 406, is, I mean, I know it, I've read it, but I want to hear a professional planner tell me what the practical implications are. Because I think part of what may be an interesting question, which I've thought about, but don't have language to propose today, is whether our ordinances guy are required to make 406 possible, right? Because
Yes.
everyone who tells me the number of houses that we are required to get into Nescoin, and please remember, no one may build those houses. The state can propose all they want, but if someone doesn't, the state's not going to build the housing. So if no one comes in and says, okay, state says 40 houses, I'm going to build 40 houses, and no one wants to do it, that's one issue, and that's an interesting question to me. The second one, though, is whether you and I, Guy, may want to look at our ordinance proposals, and we will after Senate Bill 406, and say, okay, so Sarah, as far as we can tell, these ordinances are required to make 406 happen. So what's the county's response on that? Just an interesting thing. And Sarah, should we be, either we deal with them now or we deal with them 2 years from now, but part of what we need to know is if our ordinances are required to make 406 a reality, the county has a strong incentive to get it done now.
Well, I've heard, the language, I'm like you, anxious to see how they come out with this, because the LCDC, who is providing the advice on the ordinance language for this, is going to be very specific about what ordinance changes have to be made in residential zones. And so I've heard that. And then I've also heard that we will be allowed to make some modifications based on our own specific environment. Not every unincorporated community in Tillamook County is the same. And so that's something I'm very anxious to hear. Are we going to be given language that we have no choice but to accept for our NR1, NR3, and RR2? Or are we going to be able to stay within the spirit of the law, but make changes that would reflect our community? So that is a big question.
Yep.
The other thing too, Lynn, is the thing about when the state says X number of houses, luckily for us, unlike Pacific City, by the way, we have no growth boundary. So we have no density requirement. And so we're fortunate there. And so they can't force us to have a certain density within our boundary. So
Good to remember. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So we need to make agendas for the June 17th meeting. Oh, there's no public comment except for Jeff's here, so he could make a public comment from an office.
Mark is
Mark's gone.
Mark's
already.
and yeah,
Couldn't take it anymore.
I'm just gonna comment on, let's do the agenda. And
Well, there, look at that timing.
I know. Yay, Jeff.
Hopefully you had some time in the filtered sunlight, and come back in invigorated, ready for the agenda.
So do we anticipate having, given this 27th timeline that the county is on, is there a point to a meeting on the 22nd? I mean, we're kind of on pause.
Well, yeah, but
17.
you could look at the values text.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would say the June 17th, that's the correct date, I believe.
yeah,
The June 17th meeting, we would be reviewing the vision and values in their new form. And
hold up a sec.
okay.
I'm just because I'm gonna post this basically as soon as we're done. I'm going to put this up. Let's see.
Okay. We are assuming we will have some response from Sarah by then, but we don't know that. So you could put,
Number 5 could be report from Sarah.
there we
There you
go.
go. Mhm.
Do you need the text bigger, by the way?
That's fine.
And let's
Okay.
take out 8.
Yeah, take out 8. Although we made progress on that today. I'm glad there's a meeting scheduled, even if it's on top of the presidential debate, I'm glad they're going.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Plan for the 29th meeting and
You were
You
saying
should
something
probably-
about the new vision and values.
Yeah,
yes,
that's the update.
Okay, that's 7. Okay.
We should probably be more specific about 6. That's the 406 briefing. Is that what that date is about?
no, the 406 briefing is the 27th, I think. Is that correct? The night of the debate.
Well, what is 6?
The The 20, maybe is the 29th the
Oh,
exact?
the 29th, we're currently scheduled for a 2 p.m. community plan meeting.
Right.
This is Saturday,
Yes.
and we may not be ready for that.
Yeah,
I think
we
we are
haven't
not ready.
noticed it, so you can cancel it, but
I think we should cancel it because we're going to need to digest the 27th.
Right.
so since I was not paying attention, there's Sarah's finally gonna do something with SB 406 on the 27th.
No. There's
Well,
going to
she's
be,
having. Go ahead.
yep. I
Guy, you
see.
want to explain the 27th, what you know about it? You just send out the email about it? Is that right?
We're going to get briefed. So,
You're gonna get
Something's
briefed.
happening on the 27th and none of you want to explain it.
It's
the-
not our meeting.
it's
It's
the planning commissioners, the county commissioners, the housing commissioners, and the CAC chairs are being invited to a workshop on Senate Bill 406.
On the 27th,
Right.
and
Yeah,
and
so
we want to stick our noses in the door and get a briefing.
but for the bottom line, we don't need item 6.
Okay, so you're not gonna meet on the 27th. All right.
When
We're not going to meet on the 29th.
Well,
Yep.
do you need to, well, and that meeting won't have happened yet. Okay. All right. I mean, do you have anything else? Is it gonna be light?
It's gonna, well, we'll see how light it is.
Yeah.
Right, we'll have a lot to do with the next iteration of the vision and values. We'll see if we have any further information after we've told Sarah we need to move forward on this stuff. And we will have just, the 17th, so it'll just, that's about it, I think.
All right. You can always add, actually, I probably can add stuff. I don't want to do too much while I'm on vacation, but if you realize that you want to add something,
But
we
you
can add
know,
something either when I get back or I can probably quickly add a line. Well, I'm gone. Or my cat can do it. So
we'd have to get your cat to cooperate with us. Not likely.
Not likely. So if you're happy with this, I will post it and we can don't make any like giant changes at the last minute, but if you just want to add an item that's not a big deal, that in terms of public notice requirements, I don't think that's.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna
Okay.
stop sharing if you're happy with that.
All
Not
right.
completely unhappy.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Kitty's ear is
I know,
she's
that's so
approving.
cute.
Yes.
Oh, even cuter.
Apparently he's needed for something.
Elena is helping.
Yes.
Okay, well, I think that does it for today. There was some helpful stuff that went on, and I'll look forward to Lynn's notes, and I have my notes all over 2 pages here, so I know I'm gonna get you the midnight pavers, who you send some money to, if
Thank
you wanna
you.
help do that. And what else? I told somebody, contacting Sarah about the need to help us move forward. Okay, thank you all. And
Thank you.
We'll see you around. See you around town. Jeff, have a
Yeah.
good break wherever
Yeah.
that break happens.
How could you take a break from Nesquin?
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm
that's the
taking a
problem.
break from
We talk
Nesquin
about
by
that all the
going to
time.
Ohio.
Oh,
Ohio.
To Ohio.
That's a break from
Oh,
Nesquin,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm
A
so
major
sorry.
break.
Ohio.
Ohio, yeah.
Which part?
What part? Yeah.
All the parts, I don't know,
All the
Cincinnati and
parts.
Uh,
the Cincinnati and Lake Erie and
Oh my gosh.
and around Canton. I don't know how your Ohio geography is, but
Well, yeah, well, Guy Holdsworth, as you know, is from Canton and knows Ohio
Yeah.
pretty well.
okay, I did not know that. But my mother is from Canton, and
Oh, geez.
my uncle still lives there, and he's hosting kind of a family reunion thing. And
Oh,
I
so nice.
Oh, nice.
Well,
and my
yes,
best friend from high school lives in Cincinnati now, as do family on my father's side. So Ohio is like a big destination for me in terms of friends and families.
yeah.
Fair
Well,
enough.
All
Nice.
right.
what's your mother's, what was the maiden name? I mean, I wonder if Holdsworth, I mean, Canton wasn't a big town growing up.
All right, Rolance, which is like there were not a lot of Rolances. It's an unusual name. So
Get that down, we'll ask Holdsworth.
I got it. I got it.
But yeah,
Guy's mom still lives there.
yeah, not
So
my,
he visits
not
her.
me, but my mom lives
No,
in
Guy Holdsworth's mother
Guy
still
Holdsworth's
lives there.
mom's still there.
Yeah.
And my son-in-law is from there as well, from Oberlin. His dad still farms there east of or west of Oberlin, big farm guy, right up to the lake.
and my cousin went to Oberlin.
Yeah.
Great
There
school.
you go.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
music program.
Well, good.
Okay.
And did you know that Ohio State is playing the University of Oregon on October something? That we just had to make accommodations for my son-in-law who is going to the games.
Yeah, I have the whole schedule memorized. So yes, of course I do.
Okay, thank you guys.
All
Talk to
right.
you later.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.